Hi everybody, welcome to our Friday Health Tips series. It's the second Friday of the month, so you know where we are. We're at the Healthy Eats classroom here with Ineke and Elaina. We have a really great series of recipes for you today, plants to improve your gut health. So it's going to be a great program. We did put the recipes in the event page if you want to go check them out. Maybe you already picked up all the ingredients to join in while you're cooking today. That's great. And if not, you can check out the recipes later and play this video at any time. We'll go ahead and keep it up on our site, and we'll also put it on YouTube after. So feel free to share. Before I toss the baton, I want to remind everybody why we're here. The Memorial Foundation works in our community to raise funds to advance healthcare in Yakima. We work around 4 initiatives, and the Health Tips series specifically works with our Healthy Yakima initiative. This is a powerful program where we're working with donors and stakeholders in the community just like you to raise funds to help support programs at Memorial around sustaining a healthy and vital community. So these are things like cooking classes, exercise classes, diabetes prevention, childhood obesity prevention and education. This is a really powerful body of work. We would love for you to be a part of it. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Write a comment, let us know that you're interested, send the Memorial Foundation a direct message, email us at give@memfound.org, I'll put that in the comments, or just head over to our website, memfound.org, and you can find more information or even make a donation there. So I'm going to send it over to Ineke and Elaina now, and we'll get started with our program.
Welcome everyone. As Renee was saying, my name is Ineke I'm a registered dietitian and certified diabetes care and education specialist with Memorial. I also do events, volunteering, and other classes with Elaina Moon, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Elaina. I am the owner and instructor of Healthy Eats Classroom. I also teach classes for Memorial Hospital and help with a program with PNW medical students and do my own health coaching on the side, and also help with events and do lots of different food things around Yakima. So I'm so glad you're joining us today. I think you're going to find some really great recipes.
Yes. And as Renee was also saying, so for, let's see, April, what month are we in? April, it is actually National IBS Awareness Month, or irritable bowel syndrome. And so we thought it'd be a great time with spring coming along to be talking about how to improve our gut health through the foods that we eat. And so with our first recipe that we'd like to do, we'd like to get your taste buds to India. So there's a lot of wonderful fragrances. I wish you were right here in the kitchen with us, and I really hope that you do take the time to make this recipe because your house is going to smell incredible. We recently did this recipe in a previous class, and we had to wear our mask, and we really missed out on that smell. So make sure you don't have your mask on, and hopefully safely while you're doing this recipe. This is a yellow dal, a fry with also some zucchini, and what it has you do first is to cook your red lentils, or it could be yellow. So this is what they look like at first, and this is what they look like after they're cooked. And so you do really want to make sure you get, again, red or yellow lentils because they cook down. They don't really keep their shape, as you can see in that bowl. And that's part of the function, the purpose of this recipe is we don't want them to be larger pieces of a bean. And I'm going to get our stovetop going, get this power going, because the first thing that we're going to do, your recipe talks about using either like clarified butter or it could be another butter. So this isn't a non-dairy option, but I had some in the house, so I just grabbed that. So this is more traditional of Indian. Again, you could use what other butter, or if you didn't have a butter, an oil in your house to start this. So we're going to just put in a few tablespoons of this into our pan, our pot I should say, and after that melts, we're going to add our spices. So we'll get that going. Maybe I'll just leave that spoon right in there. And I want to show you some of the spices that we'll be using. So today we have bay leaf, which you're should be probably familiar with. celery seeds. So one of the things that's common with Indian cooking is using the seed form versus a ground form to develop and build flavors. And also there's different processes. We're adding 3 spices at this time. We're going to be adding more spices later on. The other thing that we're using is cinnamon stick. And I'm going to share with you the one that we are using in this Indian. What you will find with an Indian cinnamon stick, it is more earthy. If that would be there is a difference between your cinnamon sticks that you would normally find versus Indian. So if you're really into Indian cooking and wanting to know true flavors, most of these can all be found on Amazon. So something to consider. So I'm going to add this because our clarified butter is melted, and we're just going to let the oils, this helps get the oils out of those spices, and the bay leaf and the cinnamon stick, just let that cook, or saute I should say, for about a minute. And again, you'll be able to start to smell that the cumin seeds and also the bay leaf and that cinnamon stick as well. So
we already have a comment that says butter makes it better. I assume
butter
that
makes
is.
it better. So normally I don't do it, but it's like, okay, we're gonna do it. We're gonna make it the real thing. And I want to make sure that my heat's not too high. Just looking at it, it's a little higher than I would like. We had a cumin seed go flying. Occasionally our seeds go flying, but I just turned that down a little bit. One of the reasons why we wanted to include this recipe in the gut health is it's a great example of learning how to incorporate fiber. We always hear about the benefits of fiber, but beans and legumes can be difficult to tolerate for some people. And lentils are really small, and so they're something that's a little easier to digest and not cause as much gastrointestinal symptoms as maybe like a large kidney bean. And then again, these red or yellow lentils, they also cook down really nicely. So if you haven't or been hesitant with adding beans into your diet, legumes, start with a smaller bean first, and again, a smaller portion. Anytime you're adding fiber in, do so slowly. It will take your body a little bit of time to adjust. There is such a thing as, yes, beans, the musical fruit. That is true, so do so slowly. So this has been just going for about a minute, and I'm going to add, we have our red onions, a jalapeno that had been seeded, and also the veins taken out, some minced garlic and minced ginger, and then some diced up zucchini. You could choose to dice up that zucchini even smaller or put it in a little bit larger chunks. If you do a little larger chunks, it will just take a little bit longer to cook. So your preference. So let's add those ingredients. Ooh, and you hear that sizzle? It's like we're on a professional cooking show. It sizzles. There we go. We're going to let this saute about 5 minutes. And after that, we're going to add the rest of our seasonings. We'll be adding the rest of our seasonings. We have some coconut milk and some tomatoes that we'll be adding to that. You might wonder why are tomatoes added. We find something like with tomatoes, it just adds we call it umami, some savory flavor, but also there's a hint of sweetness and acidity in there, so it's a nice addition. It helps round out the other flavors. As we're letting these vegetables cook, I want to show you our other seasonings that we'll be using. So this will be our next combination. We have garam masala, which is this darker brown. Fenugreek is the very light one, and then also our Indian curry. So let me show you. This is our fenugreek, and this is a powder. You'll see your recipe. You could use the seeds, and it'll have a different portion if you use seeds versus ground. And it's a one that kind of has, if you were to smell, like a little bit of a maple type hint of smell, fragrance to that. So you can find some of these, like a fenugreek, especially the seeds I've seen locally. And then Indian curry. Curries are so different. And so if you really would like this to be an Indian dish, we highly recommend that you do an Indian curry. When you smell curries, if we were to open this up and put our nose right to it, you will definitely be able to tell it's different than maybe our curries that we would have locally. If you see any of the bulk or just curries that are already in the little bottles at the grocery store, this will definitely smell different. So I encourage you, if you want, again, authentic Indian, go for something like this. The other thing that I will be showing you, and I'll have to show you at the end because I already opened the can of our coconut milk, and so it is upside down and can't open it from the top. So the spelling of this coconut milk is C-H-A-O-K-O-H. We like this coconut milk because all the fat and everything else is well blended. It's not separated, and so it really works well for this recipe. Probably the best place that you can get it. It used to be called Smart Food Service. Now it's called Chef Choice. They have it for a very decent price, and so that could be one option. Or again, you could do any other coconut milk in your grocery store. So.
It smells so good in here right now.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing too, when we talk about gut health, a lot of with our gut health, we're also wanting to decrease inflammation in that gut. And inflammation can be caused by added sugars, added fats like our saturated and trans fats. And so the great thing about Indian foods is all of these spices, not only for building that flavor, but spices have the highest level of antioxidants compared to any fruit or vegetable or grain or bean. And so using them in our cooking is a great way of decreasing inflammation. And when we have an inflamed gut, what should I say? Particles and other things can go in through that intestinal tract, be absorbed, and enter into our bloodstream. And that's something that we don't want, some of those toxins in our gut. We want that to go out through our stool and not get absorbed. And so wanting to decrease inflammation as well.
I think that's why I love Indian cooking is, especially if you can do it at home, you can really modify the spices so it's not so spicy. I know sometimes when you eat out at an Indian restaurant, you're like, oh, this is kind of rich, it's kind of strong. But doing something like this at home is a great way to introduce your stomach to Indian flavors and curry powders and all of that without feeling overwhelmed by it and it being too spicy. There's really not a lot of heat in this recipe.
Correct.
You can certainly add heat if you would like to, or back off the jalapeno, but it's really customizable.
Yes.
The spices are awesome for your gut. The lentils are really easy on your stomach. The coconut milk, again with the fat, is kind of nice and coating for the intestinal tract. So I think this is a great Indian recipe to start with, especially if you're struggling with some digestive issues. If you can't do the tomato, leave them out. If you don't want to do one of the other spices, that's okay, leave it out. So it's very customizable. Do what you can depending on what you're dealing with your stomach.
And a lot of times with gut issues, you might find that you tolerate a cooked vegetable more than a raw vegetable. Or like something like this, the zucchini has a skin, the tomato has a skin. Do we maybe need to peel that zucchini so that you can also better tolerate it? Or maybe you just buy a can of some diced tomatoes that the skin has been removed, and that can be super easy too. We are going to be serving this over. What we do have is some brown rice, but an option for you if you're slowly working at increasing your fiber is start with a white rice because your fiber will be from the red lentils. So that's another modification. Or if you just need a little bit lighter of a meal, with the brown rice and this lentil dal, you'll fill up pretty quickly. So I am going to add our other spices that we already talked about. Add that in there. And also our tomatoes and our coconut milk. And then when we're doing that, I'll be able to turn this coconut milk upside down and you'll be able to see a better view of that can. So there you go. Okay. So we're just gonna let that cook for about 10 to 12 minutes. And we're gonna add the lentils too, I should say. The lentils are pretty much cooked through, but a lot of it, since the lentils are cooked through, we might add a little bit more of our coconut milk. You need to open that one up.
Get out my face.
1 can is about 1.5 cups, and your recipe calls for 2 cans of coconut milk. But pretty much, since our lentils we cooked through for about 10 minutes before, a lot of it's going to be more on the tenderness of your zucchini when you'll take this off. And again, about 10 to 12 minutes.
So while she's doing that, am I ready to?
Yes, or I'll have
on over here.
have Elaina show her next recipe.
So this is the vegetable stacks with hollandaise sauce. Yes, it's in quotes. A typical hollandaise sauce is egg yolk with butter, and yes, I know we have some butter fans who are watching, so yay. This does have butter in it, but a lot less than a traditional hollandaise sauce. And I actually made a hollandaise sauce just a few weeks ago, and I like this better. Okay, yes, I said it. This is better. Because it's not as rich. You feel like you can have a little bit more of it. So if you're a sauce person like me, because I love sauce, then this is a great alternative. You're also not dealing with having to make sure that your egg yolks are cooked, or the curdling that can happen when you make a hollandaise sauce, and if you don't blend it properly or whisk it properly. So this is not technical at all. Anyone can do it, even if you're not a professional chef or don't know how to make a hollandaise sauce. So all I'm going to do is just add a silken tofu, about 1/2 cup, and this is what the package looks like. And you want to make sure that it says silken on it, because this is the soft tofu. So my 1/2 cup is in there already. And then in here's where your butter comes in. Okay, there's 2 tablespoons of butter in here. I'm using a vegan earth balanced butter. You can most certainly use a couple of tablespoons of regular butter. I have a tablespoon of lemon juice in here and lemon zest. And this all just goes straight into the blender. And then I'm also going to add that extra tablespoon of lemon juice. So you need 2 tablespoons total. And then to give us that kind of rich, deep color, we're going to add 1/8 of a teaspoon of turmeric powder. And turmeric obviously will give it that beautiful color, but it'll also help with digestion. So we're talking about gut health. Turmeric is excellent for your digestive health. It helps reduce inflammation. So that is it. So I'm going to season this with a little bit of salt and pepper. I have my tofu in here, my butter, turmeric, lemon juice, and lemon zest. And so I'm going to get this over to the blender and blend it. We're just going to blend this until it's smooth. Okay, if you want it to look more rich in yellow color, you can certainly do that. I wouldn't go too overboard with the turmeric just because it will start to look kind of fake, like it's not meant to be there. So I'm gonna add a little bit of salt and pepper. Just a little bit. And this is going to just bring out the flavor of the lemon. And then as far as vegetables go, because I'm just going to add a titch more turmeric to it, just to kind of brighten it up just a little bit for the camera. So as far as vegetables go, we have some tomatoes, I have some grilled zucchini, some grilled asparagus, a little bit of avocado, and we're going to top that with some chives. And I picked these vegetables because for most of us, they're very easy on the stomach, good for digestion. Again, if you need to leave the tomatoes off, feel free to go ahead and do that. I'm going to blend this just one more time, and then I'll show you how I assemble. All right. Just blend it. Okay, that hollandaise sauce came together way too fast, which is awesome. Typically when you make hollandaise sauce, you're either whisking or you're having to put it in the blender and make sure it's blended properly. So this is a great shortcut. All right, so I'm gonna start with my zucchini.
One of the things I like about the vegetables that Elaina chose is when we're talking about pre and probiotics. And so like the avocados, but also the asparagus, those are good sources of what we call a prebiotic. And a prebiotic is different than a probiotic in that it is more feeding, or it's actually more feeding your good gut bacteria, versus a probiotic is actually putting in that good gut bacteria. And so these are some between our, again, asparagus, avocado, artichokes are in season. Jerusalem artichokes are a little harder to find, but they have more of our prebiotic than our regular artichokes, but still can be an option. Jicama, if you haven't ever had those. Also our legumes and whole grains. So some of these we have pre and probiotics. Normally you can sometimes find a combination in foods. It's not just one or the other sometimes either.
Making sure I get enough side drip for Renee there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. No, that's good for camera. So I'm just gonna top this with just a little bit of these chives for some color. And in no time at all, you can have yourself a really pretty breakfast, lunch. And the best thing about that hollandaise sauce is it keeps really well. It's not going to separate in your fridge. If you want to add a little bit of Dijon mustard to the sauce, feel free to go ahead and do that. If you want to put an egg on this, because I know that's traditional egg, go ahead and do that too. But this very simple, very easy recipe helps get your veggies in and looks good doing it.
Too bad we didn't have this recipe before Easter. But that's okay.
Well, Mother's Day's coming up.
Mother's Day's coming up. This would be a great option. So with this last recipe, it is called curtido, which is a fermented cabbage slaw. And what I've already have sliced, and I've used like a mandolin, and I'll show you that, but we have, you could do red or green cabbage. I had red in the house. We also have finely sliced some carrots, again, very thinly sliced radishes. This is just like a quarter of the batch that the recipe calls for. There's our jalapenos, all these fun colors, our cilantro. So I basically kind of stack that all in there, and I'll maybe show you the volume. You can let it sit for at least 24 hours, or you could do it multiple days, just out of direct sunlight. And what we're going to be adding to this, and this is, maybe I should show you like a mandolin type thing that we used. So a very thin slice of blade, that is super, makes this kind of recipe very quick to make. So biggest thing with one of these is safety, whether you have a glove that doesn't let you cut your finger on here, or this one comes with where you can put your vegetable here and then slide it so that you aren't cutting your fingers either. Part of our acidity that we're gonna get, there's some of our minced garlic. We also have some lime zest and lime juice. I'm going to just add that in. This is the zester I like to use. What I have found that there's so many different zesters out there, and this one has teeth going both directions, and it's super efficient at getting that zest off. I find it gets more zest than maybe some of our other ones, and then it just collects it on this side. Your recipe does say to weigh your vegetables to figure out how much salt to put in there. And so there is a little math involved. I already weighed it. One of the things with any time you're doing fermented foods, so fermented foods are a good source of probiotics, but to ferment, we have to use salt. And so these are traditionally very salty, so if you're dealing with high blood pressure or chronic kidney disease or heart disease, another condition that you're watching your sodium intake, you still will need to add at least some of the salt. You may back off a little bit on it. Or your other option is follow the recipe as it is, but before you consume it, rinse off some of that salt. You could always bring out some of that flavors with adding a little bit of extra of that lime juice if you've rinsed some of that lime juice off. So we'll just be adding the salt. And this is again going to, once it sits here, it's going to be about half the size or less once it sits for about 24 hours. So I know you aren't going to be able to see this. I want to at least kind of show you. I kind of wish I had some already made to show you a before and an after, but you'll just have to make it. This is really great as putting on tacos. And so I will still put it, even though it's not ready yet, I'm going to still top it on a taco just so you can see how colorful that is.
Here, use your hand.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Use my hands, just dig in there.
Yeah, well, that'll
Thanks,
actually
Elaina.
help break it down too. If you kind of massage it, that'll help to break down and kind of massage that salt into the vegetables.
Just like massaging kale.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's more fun.
Yeah.
Hands-on cooking.
Yeah.
This is why we cook as a team. The other thing, so what we're going to be serving this over is sweet potato tacos. So these I made earlier, and so starches, so potatoes, rice, pasta that you've cooked, and then you've put in your refrigerator. They develop what's called resistant starches, and resistant starches don't affect your blood sugar as much, so if you have diabetes, but also resistant starches are a prebiotic. So we're incorporating probiotics from the fermentation and prebiotics from the potato. How awesome is that? And I left the skin on the potato, so extra fiber. If you do have GI issues, I would just caution you. Cabbage sometimes can be one that you might have to be careful or learn what your tolerance is. So anytime you're dealing with GI issues, it's very individualized. That's probably the most challenge with research out there on what's the most effective. It's very individualized, so keeping like a food and symptom diary can really help with figuring out what is going to work for your body. We really just need a sauce or some avocado on it and it'd be perfect.
Yummy.
What kind of sauce would we use for this taco?
Well, we recently did a sauce that had a mayonnaise with chipotle powder. So with these sweet potato tacos, or sweet potatoes, we seasoned it with chipotle powder, chili powder, smoked paprika, it's a must, cumin, and a little bit of salt. So it was a mayonnaise with a chipotle powder and some lime juice.
Nice.
That's how simple it was. You could also do like a cilantro avocado type sauce. That would be super delicious as well.
Nice.
What I'd like to bring your attention back to as we're wrapping up is this dal. It is cooking nicely there. What were you thinking? Did it need a little bit more time, Elaina? Maybe with our zucchini?
Probably, yeah.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
So we'll end up getting a picture posted so you can see what it looks like with our rice. Again, depending on what size of zucchini slices or dices that you have in there is how long it's going to take. But it's starting to thicken up from when we had it before, and the fragrances are great. Just the last step will be, once they're cooked to the tenderness that you would like, would be don't forget your bay leaf and your cinnamon stick before you serve. And then we'll be topping that with some cilantro. One other option, as I was doing my grocery store shopping this morning, I'm going to change these gloves, that is fun this time of the season, thank you, is green garbanzo beans.
Oh, yeah.
So I was at Winco, and also more of your Mexican stores will have them. So green garbanzo beans are in their pod. Their pods are a little fuzzy, but you can eat them raw. So this can be a super fun snack. And you just snap it open and you eat them. They're not so starchy as a bean, but they aren't as buttery as like an edamame. There's also other ways of preparing it. So I was just hearing from some of my other friends that are Hispanic Latino, and they talk about putting some lime juice and tahini on there. But there's a lot of different recipes out there. And again, I just think it's a fun thing to eat how it is. And since it's in its pod, it kind of slows you up with eating. So if you're needing a snack that will slow you down, there you go. So fun way to add in some fiber in there.
Great.
So our next cooking class will be on May 14th. So again, second Friday of every month. And there's a lot of different health awareness things going on in May. One of them is about our eye health, but also fitness. And so we thought we would be doing some spring recipes and how it relates to our eye health, and also making sure that we're fueling our body to enjoy the summer coming up. So I hope that you can join us for that. I'd also like to tell you about one other event that we have coming up. I'm actually going to give it to Elaina. This event is going to be this Saturday, and she'll explain it a little bit more.
Yeah, so tomorrow, if you're needing something to do and you want to get out of the house, come down to Freehand Cellars. It's in Wapato. It's a beautiful location. Ineke and I and Andrea McCoy from the Salt and Stone will be there cooking just a delicious menu, some different options, and this is all in honor of Yakima Restaurant Week. So you can come out and check that out. Sit, relax, maybe have a little glass of wine, enjoy the view, and a wonderful meal. And that is from noon to 7 o'clock tomorrow, Saturday, April 10th. And if you want more healthy eats recipes and more delicious things, check out my website or Facebook page, because there will be another Yakima Restaurant Week event next Friday with Chef Jason Patel, who also used to work at Memorial Hospital. So I hope you can join us for either one of those events, and we'll post some pictures on the Facebook page so you'll know what these finished dishes look like. And thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Great. Bye.
Bye.